So, welcome to Rare Breed Brotherhood. You don't need to announce your presence when your energy speaks before you do. Some men don't have to try hard to be noticed. They don't chase attention. They don't force charm. And yet, people feel something different around them almost immediately, especially women. This isn't about being mysterious or trying to be hard to get. It's something deeper. It's a calm, controlled presence that makes people take a second look without knowing why. These men are what the world now calls Sigma males, not because they chose the label, but because they quietly operate on a frequency most people don't understand. They're not leaders trying to dominate. They're not followers looking for approval. They simply move according to their own code, and that's rare. Women especially notice them quickly, not because of flashy looks or loud confidence, but because they don't follow the script. They don't seek validation. They don't play roles. And that raw honesty stands out. In a world full of noise, a man who knows who he is and doesn't need the world to confirm it becomes unforgettable. If you've ever felt out of place, not because you're lacking something, but because the world feels too shallow for how deeply you think, there's a good chance you're a Sigma. This isn't a flaw, it's your power. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and keep building that quiet strength that doesn't need to be seen to be real, but is felt the moment you're around. Let's dive in rare breeds. Number 1. His presence hits differently, even when he says nothing. There's a certain kind of man who doesn't have to say a single word to be noticed. He could be standing in a corner, sipping water, not bothering anyone. And yet, somehow, people start wondering who he is, especially women. They can sense something unusual, and it's not in a flashy or dramatic way. It's quiet, still, unbothered, but oddly magnetic. It's not arrogance. He's not looking around thinking he's better than everyone. And he's definitely not shy either. He's just somewhere else. Present, but not performing. He's not scanning the room to see who's watching him. He's not trying to be liked, and that alone makes people want to know more. That silent confidence is rare, and it's powerful in a way loud confidence could never be. Women pick up on this fast, not because he's trying to impress them, but because he isn't. That alone scrambles the usual script. They're used to men putting on a show, cracking jokes, flexing muscles, trying to charm their way into a conversation. But this guy, he's not doing any of that. And suddenly, all eyes are on the one man who couldn't care less. It's like his energy is tuned to a different station. While everyone else is on full volume, he's on silent mode and yet somehow louder than the rest. That kind of energy makes people uncomfortable and curious. Is he dangerous? Is he brilliant? Is he just bored? And that's the best part, you never really know, which makes women lean in even more. He doesn't need to prove anything. He just is. And in a world full of noise, that kind of stillness is hard to ignore. The moment he walks into a room, people don't think, who is he trying to be? They think, wait, who is that? And all he did was show up quietly. Number 2. He doesn't participate in the usual male posturing. You can spot it in seconds if you're paying attention. While most men are busy puffing up their chests, talking over each other, and trying to win the invisible game of who's the most dominant in the room, there's one guy who's doing something completely different. He's just watching, calm, detached, maybe even a little amused. He's not trying to take over the space. He's not laughing too loud or showing off. He's not interrupting to tell a better story, and he's definitely not fishing for approval. This is where it gets interesting. His silence isn't weakness. It's not that he doesn't have anything to say. It's that he doesn't feel the need to prove anything. That subtle refusal to join the ego parade, that is exactly what makes him stand out. While others are fighting for a spot in the spotlight, he's sitting in the shadows, watching everyone trip over themselves, trying to be important. He sees through the performance. He's not impressed by loud confidence or flashy charm. He plays by a different set of rules, one most people don't even know exists. Women notice this instantly. It's not just his stillness. It's the way he doesn't flinch when others try to assert dominance. He doesn't rise to it. He doesn't engage. It's like he already knows who he is, and no one else's opinion changes that. That kind of control, it is rare, and make no mistake, he's not being passive. He's analyzing, calculating, quietly reading everyone in the room. The game may be invisible, but he's 10 steps ahead because he's not busy trying to win approval. He's too busy figuring out who's real and who's just playing a role. That's why his presence unsettles people. He's not part of the show. He's the one who sees through it. And that, in itself, is power. Number 3, he listens more than he speaks. But he actually listens. There's something rare about a man who truly listens. Not the fake kind of listening where someone just nods along, waiting for their chance to jump in and say something clever. No. A Sigma male listens in a way that feels different. You can tell he's actually paying attention, not just to your words, but to the spaces between them, to your tone, to what you are not saying. You say something, and instead of instantly replying or trying to top it with his own story, he pauses. He thinks. It almost feels like he's downloading your words into a private server in his head, and then, when he finally speaks, you feel it. His response doesn't just fill the air. It hits. It makes you stop and think, because it's not random. It's not polite small talk. It's real. That kind of communication is jarring for people who are used to shallow conversations. Most people talk to be heard. They want to feel important, funny, admired, but he speaks to add something meaningful. If he has nothing useful to say, he simply doesn't say it. And that silence, that calm restraint, it says more than most people's 5-minute monologues. Women notice this right away. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't feel the need to dominate a conversation. It makes them lean in, literally and mentally. They want to know what he's thinking. They start asking more questions. They start opening up. Because deep down, everyone wants to be heard. Not just listened to, but really seen. And when a man gives you that kind of attention without trying to get something from you, it catches you off guard. He doesn't just speak to impress. He speaks to connect. And when he does, you remember every word, because they weren't just said. They were meant. Number 4, he doesn't mirror your energy. He makes you recalibrate yours. Most people don't realize how often we mirror each other. You smile, they smile. You speak fast, they speak faster. You get excited, they match your vibe. It's automatic. It keeps social interactions smooth and easy. But Sigma males? They don't play that game. They don't adjust themselves just to make you feel more at ease. They don't change their tone, their tempo, or their mood to fit yours. They stay rooted in their own rhythm. And that rhythm is slow, calm, and deeply grounded. It doesn't bend. It doesn't rush. It doesn't care if the room feels awkward or if people expect more enthusiasm. He doesn't perform emotions just to keep things flowing. That throws people off, especially women who are used to men adapting to win their approval. Instead of chasing your energy, he holds his own, unshaken. And what happens next is subtle but powerful. You begin to shift. Without realizing it, you lower your voice. You speak slower. You stop trying to be on. You start reflecting, matching his pace. And right there, the dynamic flips. Because suddenly you're not leading the interaction anymore. He is. Not by force, not by charm, but by the sheer strength of his stillness. That kind of emotional gravity pulls people in. You find yourself more alert, more thoughtful, more present, simply because he is. Sigma males don't do this on purpose. It's just who they are. They move from within. They don't need to raise their voice or match your vibe to be seen. They stand so solid in their own space that it resets the energy around them. And once that happens, people feel it. In a world of reactive personalities, a man who won't flinch, who stays exactly as he is, becomes the one everyone else subconsciously follows. Number 5, he doesn't try to be relatable. He is real, and that's rare. There's a big difference between being relatable and being real. And Sigma males don't waste time trying to blur the line. While most people are busy adjusting themselves to fit in, softening their opinions, or offering carefully packaged vulnerability to seem likable, he's doing the exact opposite. He doesn't care if his truth makes others uncomfortable. He's not here to perform humility or sell you a polished version of himself. What you see is exactly what you get. He doesn't twist his words to sound more digestible. He doesn't nod just to keep the peace. And he definitely won't agree with you just to avoid being seen as difficult. He'll sit there quietly while the room tries to impress each other with fake depth. And when he finally speaks, it cuts through the noise like a blade. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just pure, honest clarity. Women notice this fast. At first it can be jarring. Most people are conditioned to expect a little emotional performance, the charming backstory, the shared opinions, the strategically placed moment of relatable sadness. But Sigma males don't hand that out. They don't need sympathy. They don't ask for validation. They're not here to make you feel better about them. They're here to live their truth with or without your applause. And that kind of raw presence is magnetic. Not because it's designed to attract, but because it's so rare in a world full of masks. You might not always agree with him. You might not fully understand him, but you'll never question whether he's being real. And in a time where authenticity is often just another performance, a man who shows up without filters becomes unforgettable. He's not trying to be relatable. He is real. And that alone is enough to shift the entire atmosphere. Number 6, he carries solitude like armor, not baggage. There's a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. And Sigma males walk that line with quiet confidence. You can feel it the moment you're around one. His silence isn't heavy. It's not sad. It's not filled with desperation for attention or company. It feels calm, complete, like he's already at peace with himself, whether anyone else shows up or not. Most people carry solitude like it's something to be fixed, like being alone means something's wrong. But not him. He wears his solitude like armor. It protects him, grounds him, sharpens him, and women pick up on this almost immediately. It's not that he's rude or cold. He can hold a conversation. He can laugh. He can connect. But there's a stillness in him that doesn't disappear just because someone walks into the room. He's not avoiding people. He's not hiding from the world. He's simply not dependent on it. He doesn't need constant interaction to feel alive. His self-worth isn't built on how many messages he gets, how liked he is, or who's paying attention. That kind of independence is rare, and it throws people off, especially women who are used to men chasing validation through constant interaction. And here's the twist. His solitude doesn't push people away. It pulls them in. There's something deeply attractive about a man who isn't waiting to be completed. He's already whole. That makes people curious. It makes them want to be invited into that quiet, powerful world he's built for himself. It's not easy to carry solitude with that kind of grace. Most people either avoid it or let it consume them. But a Sigma male, he's mastered it. His silence doesn't say, "Leave me alone." It says, "I'm good either way." And in a world full of noise and neediness, that kind of energy feels like peace. Number 7, he rarely offers compliments, and when he does, it's surgical. Most people toss out compliments like candy, sweet, easy, and forgettable. But not a Sigma male. He doesn't hand out praise just to be liked, and he's not trying to butter you up. In fact, he rarely compliments anyone at all. And that's exactly what makes his words hit so hard when he finally does. See, when he speaks up with a compliment, it's never generic. He's not going to tell you that you look nice or seem cool. That's surface-level talk, and he's not interested in surface anything. Instead, his praise comes out of nowhere, sharp and precise, like a blade aimed right at the truth. He might say something like, "You ask questions most people avoid," or "You have a calm way of holding space for chaos." That kind of compliment, it doesn't just land, it stops you in your tracks. Because it shows he wasn't just looking at you, he was seeing you, studying you, picking up details no one else bothered to notice. And he doesn't say it to get a reaction. He says it because it's real. Women don't forget those moments, not because it flatters them, but because it pierces through the noise. It feels like someone finally looked past the face, the clothes, the social mask, and found something deeper, something true. It's also why people remember what he says long after the conversation ends. His compliments aren't dressed up in sugar. They come with a quiet certainty, the kind that makes you wonder what else he's picked up about you without saying a word. That's the Sigma signature. Quality over quantity. No wasted words, no empty flattery, just truth, dropped when you least expect it in a way that lingers. He won't say much, but when he does, you'll know it mattered. Number 8, He's disconnected from the need to impress, and it shows. There's something undeniably strange and powerful about a man who moves through the world without trying to be seen. No calculated charm, no hunger for validation, no subtle flexing for attention. He's not performing, he's just being. And in a world where most people are constantly trying to prove their worth, that kind of detachment hits different. Sigma males have this almost invisible confidence, not loud, not showy, just solid. They don't wear flashy clothes to stand out. They don't drop names to sound important. They're not scanning the room hoping someone is watching them. In fact, they're probably hoping you aren't. But here's the twist. Because they're not trying to be seen, you can't stop noticing them. Women pick up on this almost immediately. There's no thirst for applause in the way he speaks, no rehearsed stories to win you over, no exaggerated reactions to appear interesting. He's comfortable in silence. He's comfortable not being the center of attention. He's comfortable not being understood, and that kind of comfort is magnetic. Because it signals that he's not just detached from the crowd, he's above the whole game. He doesn't need your admiration to feel valuable. His worth doesn't rise and fall with other people's opinions. That's rare. That's bold. That's dangerous. The irony is brutal. The more he doesn't try to impress, the more impressive he becomes. It's like the world wants to know what secret he's sitting on, what makes him so unaffected, what gives him that calm power most people fake but never really own. You won't find him chasing attention, but attention finds him. Not because he asks for it, but because people feel his presence, and they can't quite explain why. Number 9, he moves differently, like he owns his time. There's something about the way a Sigma male moves that immediately separates him from the rest. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's unmistakable. He doesn't rush, he doesn't fidget, and he definitely doesn't move like he's trying to keep up with anyone. His pace is deliberate, calm, and centered, like time is his, not the other way around. While most people are in a constant state of go, 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 chasing the next thing, caught in invisible pressure to be somewhere or prove something, he's just still, grounded, almost like he's walking through a storm with an invisible shield, while everyone else is being blown around. And women notice that immediately. Not because he's trying to stand out, but because his calm pace does. He walks like he's exactly where he means to be. No nervous energy, no twitchy hands checking phones every few seconds, no fake urgency, just a quiet command of his space and his time. And that's rare. People who move that way aren't being dragged through life, they're in charge of it. Women spot this quickly, even if they don't know what to call it. They sense the difference. It's not laziness, and it's not arrogance. It's intention. It's self-respect. It's a man who doesn't rush because he refuses to be rushed. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's strangely attractive. Not just because it looks confident, but because it feels powerful. A man who moves like he owns his time sends a very clear message. He's not chasing anything. He's choosing everything. And that changes the energy in the room without him saying a single word. While others burn themselves out trying to catch up, he remains anchored, fully present, fully composed, and impossible to ignore. Number 10. He doesn't flirt traditionally. He provokes curiosity instead. A Sigma male doesn't play by the usual flirting rulebook because he doesn't need to. While most guys try to win attention with charm, compliments, and the occasional cringe-worthy pickup line, he does something far more effective. He says very little, but makes you want to know more. It's not that he's awkward or shy. In fact, he's usually calm, collected, and fully present. But his energy doesn't scream, "Look at me." It quietly whispers, "Figure me out if you can." And that's what makes him different. You don't feel like he's trying to get your number. You feel like you want to earn his attention, without knowing why. There are no cheesy lines, no flirty antics, no try-hard banter. He won't lean in with exaggerated interest or laugh too hard to get your approval. He simply exists in a way that forces you to wonder what's going on beneath the surface. His confidence isn't loud. It's quiet, and that's what makes it powerful. You don't feel like he's putting on a show for you. You feel like you've stumbled across someone who isn't waiting to be discovered. And now you want to. And the best part? He's not withholding to be manipulative, he's just being himself. That natural reserve, that subtle challenge, that emotional control, it flips the dynamic. Suddenly, you're leaning in, you're asking the questions. You're trying to crack the code. This is why women often find themselves drawn in without understanding how or when it even started. He doesn't flirt to get your attention. He creates a space where you feel like you initiated everything. And that changes everything. He doesn't chase, he doesn't perform, he simply is. And in doing so, he turns the game on its head. Number 11. He's selectively social, and unapologetically so. A Sigma male doesn't hate people. He just doesn't need them. That's the difference. He's not the guy hanging out in the corner sulking because he wasn't invited to the conversation. He's the guy who showed up, read the energy in 5 seconds, and decided whether or not it was worth engaging. And if it's not, he's totally fine observing from the sidelines. Women clock this instantly. He's not rude, and he's not antisocial. He can hold a good conversation. He can listen with real attention. And when he speaks, it usually makes people pause. But you can tell right away, he's not there to entertain, impress, or collect social points. He's there because he chose to be. And if he's quiet, it's not because he's shy. It's because he's not interested in meaningless noise. You'll often see him surrounded by people, but mentally somewhere else. Not out of disrespect, just out of preference. His mind is wired to value depth over volume. One real conversation means more to him than 20 shallow ones combined. He's the kind of person who can spend an entire evening with one person talking about something real and leave more fulfilled than someone who worked the whole room. And here's the wild part. People notice. They sense that he's not performing. They feel that his absence from a conversation is intentional, not accidental. And that makes his attention feel rare, because it is. He's not being mysterious to play hard to get. He's just not going to fake interest. If he connects with you, it'll be genuine. And if he doesn't, he won't pretend otherwise. That kind of self-control, especially in social settings, is something people don't expect, and it makes them curious. Why doesn't he need to fit in? Why is he so at peace being on his own wavelength? The answer is simple. He's not trying to belong everywhere, just where it matters. In conclusion, power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply refuses to chase. Being a Sigma male isn't about having the loudest voice or the most followers. It's about knowing who you are when nobody's watching, and being at peace with it. While most people are busy trying to fit in, impress, or be liked, the Sigma walks a completely different path. Not because he's trying to rebel, but because he simply refuses to betray himself to be accepted. Women sense this quickly. They're used to men performing gachate, turning up the charm, mimicking personalities, or putting on whatever mask seems to get results. The Sigma male? He doesn't do any of that. He doesn't flatter to win approval. He doesn't force conversations. He doesn't fake interest. He moves differently, because his validation comes from within, and that's what makes him impossible to ignore. If you recognize these traits in yourself, here's your reminder. You are not strange for needing space. You are not cold for choosing silence over small talk. You are not difficult for refusing to play social games. You're just wired to think deeply, move intentionally, and protect your peace. You don't need to explain your stillness. You don't need to apologize for your independence. You don't have to become more approachable just to make others comfortable. Your strength lies in your restraint, your depth, your refusal to be performative. The world often misunderstands quiet power, but that doesn't mean you need to change it. It means you need to own it. And when you do, people notice. Women notice. Because the truth is, Sigma energy doesn't need to chase anything. It draws the world in, not by noise, but by presence. And that is rare. Keep it, guard it, and walk your path with your head high and your peace intact. Thank you for watching. God bless you.